Kia ora koutou. My name's Hibbs. I've been back down in Christchurch for almost 2 years now, having left our city maybe 15 years ago to live amongst my wife's people in Taipū. And so pretty much for the last 15 years I've been working in iwi-centric responses. And I've got to tell you that there's so much in that you take for granted, what value it adds to not having to convince people about the efficacy of tikanga-based or Māori-based responses. So one of the refreshing things that I've found coming back to Christchurch is that there is a willingness. And I guess when people suffer trauma on the scale that we have in Christchurch, I think it allows us to empathise with any other population group that may have experienced trauma on a scale of a magnitude that might allow us to sort of reframe how we might respond to things. So Waka Tapu is one of those organisations that was a good idea in someone's head 20 years ago, who said, actually, if we want to turn the curve, we're going to have to work with more of these men. And if we're going to work with this particular group, our Māori men, how do we work with them in a way that sort of says, yes, we know you've done some bad things, but I've got to speak to the spirit in you to turn this around. And I also know that the woman in your life is probably also going to continue being in your life. So how are we going to respond to those realities in a way that makes sense? And one of those things that we're trying to do, is this our website or is this just a... Okay, all right. And I'm a big believer too in the digital native. So how do we combine these things both around... Excuse me. I've got a table at work where the corner of the building subsides to one corner, and every time people put something on the table, it just... Is it,
it's still on.
do I need this? No, I don't. Thank you. So I guess from our perspective, here we go, the synthetics issue, which is everywhere. And I love that it was everywhere in our paper because it meant it was a topical conversation like violence is. But we know that we're going to have more people coming through our door who are going to experience the withdrawals, and they're going to express those things probably in violence on some occasions. So when that person comes to see us, is that a violence issue or is that a drug issue? Well, it probably doesn't matter, the actual definition or the diagnosis of why they're there. The bigger question is, can we respond to their needs? So the way that we've tried to develop our response at Waka Tapu is that we've got a strong alcohol and drug arm. We've cut our teeth really in the domestic violence response. But there's so many questions that matter to us around the well-being of people. So here we go. Can we get women who have experienced domestic violence to also have a cervical smear? For those women in the room, you will know some of the reasons why people who have those experiences in their lives, the reason why they don't access any number of services is not how close the GP is. There are any number of reasons why that might get in the way. So what we're trying to do at Waka Tapu is get a collection of services. Underneath your Māoriness matters a lot. How can we connect them to more services? And each one of those services might be a building block for the confidence or the restoration of mana in people, which we know are going to be important if they're going to tackle the family violence that exists in their own farm. So I'm going to hand it over to Beatrice Brown. She'll be more familiar to many of you that are doing the hard work at the front line. And I've got to, I want to mention to everyone that works in this space because it's not easy. It's really, really hard. And sometimes we know that we feel like we're on a treadmill and we're going faster. One of my big challenges to ourselves is how do we slow down? How do we work deeper? Not necessarily skinnier and longer, because violence is one of those issues that is sort of at the core. Some of us might feel we're hardwired that way. Under pressure, under trauma, this is how we express ourselves. And there are other ways to describe violence too. I don't want to patronise anyone in the room that understands there are multiple causes. It's an incredibly complex issue. But what we're trying to do is to meet where the need is at. So however whānau present themselves, can we make them stronger before they leave? So I'm just going to introduce Beats because we have tried to participate more in some of these regional responses. And maybe she can talk to how other people that are interested in getting connected to a response like the one that we provide. Whilst they're playing with the technology, when I arrived here, all of our kids are growing up in this digital world, all of them are, and sometimes we're always sort of chasing them to catch up, not so that we can go faster, it's just so that we can access them. And if the meaningful face-to-face conversation happens after a digital-based engagement, then so be it. We're making no value judgments about this is going to be the be-all or end-all for people. But what we know is that since we've gone online, we've described our services in a clearer, plain language way so that people understand. We haven't locked it into this is the procedural stuff, this is the eligibility stuff. We've said things like if you want to make sense of your behaviours, we think we can help. If you want to keep this as a whānau issue, we think we can help. If the government's going to refer you because it's a mandated referral, then that's the same old stuff, which is also okay and will work for some. But what we're trying to do within our organisation is rebalance our approach so that, yes, there is always going to be this referral source, but actually deeper and slower for families might be an approach that might have greater efficacy. So can you speak to what we're actually doing?
Kia ora tātou, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. Sometimes it's really hard following after Dallas because he goes off and then I've got to sort of try and...
So can I just sort of, while she's sort of forming the thoughts in her mind, Beats has been critical to our integrated case management way that we work. So every single referral, whether it comes through a nursing angle or through the DV door or through an AOD door, Beats is at that table with the nurse. She's at that table on occasion where we've had a work broker at that table, she's at that same table. So even within ourselves, we're trying to do that better case management. So when they arrive, we've got a better sense around timing. But I'd just like Beats to kind of talk a little, maybe to some of that stuff.
Okay, so if we look at referrals, I mean, referrals come of the guys can be mandated from MOJ, CPS, they can turn up at the door and do an referral. Must excuse me because I talk with my hands. So, and then they go from there. So the referral process is you come in, you go through intake process. Sometimes it could take between 5 to 8 working days to actually get to a caseworker. So it's really important if you're referring in to us that we have all the information. Because if we don't have that right information, there'll be a hold up with the referral. So from there, they'll be allocated, then they go to a program, whether it be Te Whāriki Whakamana, which is our men's program, and that is 15 sessions. There's an evening group and there's a day group. Two awesome, actually we've just taken on another a guy to work in the with the men.
I love my team because in a post-Christchurch environment, not all these guys are unemployed. We've got to lose some of the stereotypes around even Māori responsiveness. The guys are coming in wearing high-vis jackets, so they're working often from 7 till 4 or 5. So now my team has to work after 5 o'clock to fit it in. So these are just some of the post-Christchurch challenges that I know we're not the only ones that respond to, but we've got passionate people that are putting their hands up to work after 5.
Yeah, we're good at doing that at Waka Tapu. So the men's group around. So, I mean, obviously they're assessed to come into our programs, and it is also about building that rapport with our men. We can get a good relationship with them, then we know we're onto something good. So they'll go through the program, they might DNA a couple of times and they might ring up and say they can't get there, and that's okay. If we can keep them there to complete, then we're happy with that. teach them some strategies. There's also a Māori component within the program. It is about having karakia. It is about them standing and figuring out who they are. So it's around identity. Out of Te Wharaki Whakamana, the men's group, came our WIP team, whānau intervention, which is made up of 3 women. So their role in WIPs is to pick up the partners of the guys that are tending Te Wharaki Whakamana. So we'll give them a ring, see if they want support, and if they do, then we'll bring them into the service and wrap around. Depending what they're wanting, it might be a food parcel, they might want to do some stuff around anger as well, and that's okay. So and then if there's something happening with the children, we'll find out and work our way with them as well. In regards to Ngā Arataka, which is our women's anger management, we say it's anger management, but it's a bit broader than that. It is around relationships, it's around foundations, building self-esteem for our women. So that program is run on a school term. It's on a Tuesday, it runs for 2.5 hours. And we run it on a school term, and this is to cater for our mamas that have children at school. We do all right with our programs. I think Ngā Arataka is an awesome program. It's around our women finding their true path. Okay, so I've been
Do people recognise this woman? If you look at her and you just sort of cast your minds back to X Factor, there was a young boy whose roots are both here in Christchurch and in Tairāwhiti, which is where he's from. So whenua Patuwai. So we know the value of waiata as well, and a song, some people call it music therapy. But if you have that as an ordinary part of what you do, you're trying to engage with people's emotions first before they will have a listening to this difficult subject. These are centuries old knowings and understandings. And so one of the things we're lucky enough to have, and we're looking for more people that can work in this kind of way, is that if you make it okay for people to talk because the engagement is right. Some of you might be familiar with a Pōwhiri type model. When we look at the competencies for people to work with our whānau, they are non-negotiables. These are ways of engagement. And when I look at our Pacific relations in the room too, they start going, yes, this is us as well. Then I look at our Pākehā relations in the room and they go, actually, this is a human thing. This is all people. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to in Christchurch is as we talk about these collaborations, how we work together, let's look at what makes sense for us. So even though we might describe it in a different way, it doesn't mean it's different. That's just how we describe it. So I just want to give it back to Beats. I know we've probably got a minute or two to maybe take a couple of questions, and if they're tricky, they will go that way.
Thanks, Dallas. So basically, that's us. If you need to find out further information about what we do at He Waka Tapu, I'm the person to get in contact with because I'm the DV coordinator. So, any questions?
You take New Zealand European clients who want to work with you or Pacific Island clients?
Yep, we have. We work with Pacifica. We would take European. They have, if their partner is Māori. Because we're a kaupapa Māori organisation and we are funded to predominantly work with Māori. However, we will have a look at what's
The organisation can't have a CE that looks like me, a classic hybrid, and close our doors to people. So we don't. But what we do say is that our kaupapa Māori approach drives everything from our governance, our board, down.